There we go. There we go. If I could just fix this really quickly. There we go. There we go. What is up, Internet? It is Saturday, so you already know what time it is. It is your Saturday morning anime super hour with the Smash Podcast. Here with your boisterous host with the most, the one and only man who can never stop talking, the one who can do everything on one breath. You know, your favorite anime king himself. I am your host, Bloody Nux. I hope y'all are having a wonderful time today, guys. And I tell y'all what, we have a wonderful show today with some wonderful topics to share with you all here. I cannot wait to jump into it. Obviously, y'all know it is our first time returning back to our spoiler cast, and we got a great show here. Unfortunately, the rest of the crew will not be here today because it seems that everyone's having a bit of tech issues. And I know here for the Soul King, he is currently out of the country, turning into Mr. Globetrotter over here, touring the world with his wonderful lady because it is their birthday. I believe they are out of the country right now. So massive love and happy birthday wishes to her. So I hope that they are enjoying themselves on their little vacation. As for Kofi and for Jubei, I don't know what's going on. They said that they were having some issues and they went basically incognito. I was like, they went completely off the grid. Could not hear from them. Could not find anything from them. So you know, they whatever's going on with them, I hope they get their stuff sorted out here soon. But it is kind of whatever it is. I was like, well, hopefully, y'all know that your boy will adapts. We keep going, we keep pushing, we keep having fun. I wanted to shout out to everyone who's stopping by in the chat. I see you over there, Fastback over there from the NLG podcast. I appreciate you all. Seriously, anyone who comes on by and comes to talk pop culture and nerd stuff with us. I was like, I always appreciate y'all coming through. I was like, I try to do what I can here, and I tell you what, we got a lot of stuff today here that would have been longer if everyone else was here, but it's just me. But it's okay because the fact that you know what, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about here today, and a lot of good things to share with you all here. So we're just gonna go ahead and get right on it. Y'all know we get started. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So first up, as y'all know, we have talked a lot in the past about our enjoyment of Marvel. And yes, I will say I understand that nowadays the superhero fatigue and the Marvel fatigue is probably setting in for a lot of people, right? But it doesn't change the fact that there's still always some excitement and some enjoyment whenever a new project comes out, especially ones that we've known about for a while here. And most recently, as you know, right now streaming on Disney Plus, they have Loki season 2, which a lot of people have been waiting for a while. But they just recently actually revealed the trailer for Echo. And for those who don't know what Echo is actually the new series that is going to be based on the character Echo from the Hawkeye TV show, and it's going to be talking about her story. And I know a lot of people have been excited for this. I know myself, I've been excited for this because yes, we understand that there's a push for more diversity and everything else here, but it's the fact that this character represents a lot because one, being Native American or Native Indian or American Indian Heritage Month, she's a very big character within the Marvel canon, um, being of Native American or indigenous descent, however you want to put it, right? And the fact is, not only that, but she's also a character who really pushes for the fact that she is a mute. You know, she doesn't really talk. She speaks in all sign language and stuff like that because she has trouble hearing. So the fact of having that character and seeing the TV show and trailer to portray this character and finally get her own show, which we've known has been coming back, and then of course seeing the return of Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin is always great because that character is just so well done. Whether it was from the Netflix series to even his portrayal and appearance in the Hawkeye TV show, I really love what he does for that character. So to see him in this trailer really coming back and being able to see what's to be expected, what's to come, is an exciting time, right? No matter how you feel about it, it's an exciting time here. Now, I am going to play the trailer over here for you guys. I believe we can play the audio. I don't believe there's anything I don't believe there's anything copyrighted in it. I was like, but if not, I was like, I could just play the trailer without the audio, and y'all can go and look it up for yourselves. But I wanted to show something here for y'all because I wanted to do something different. You know, I want to be interactive here with you guys. So let's go ahead and just do that. Ah, there we go. Hopefully that's exactly it right there. So let me just go ahead and play that for y'all so y'all can see what's going on here. But like I said, there's a lot of great stuff coming in here for whether you're burned out or not. I was like, the fact is that always seeing new trailers for new projects coming is always an exciting time, right? And Marvel always does have really good projects that are always exciting to see and to talk about. And despite everything, it's great to see how these all connect into an overarching, larger canon, and the fact that they're doing more smaller projects, more diverse projects, and not just using the same what it was 10 years ago or so, you know, which was just Iron Man, Thor, um, Captain America. They expanded. They brought in a lot more characters. They brought in a lot more uh, diverse groups and stuff like that. And yes, I can understand that a lot of people may not feel that the current phase with Phase 5 has been the best, right? I was like, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about the multiverse, you know, the multiversal saga going on right now with how they were doing, you know, Kang the Conqueror, how they're handling a lot of the other series. I know some people liked Multiverse of Madness, some people didn't. A lot of people like the TV shows, some people don't like the TV shows, and there's definitely some bad ones. But the fact is that at the end of the day, it's all playing out to be very different stories and so many unique concepts coming into each other to create something that's even bigger. So I hope that despite that there is a lot of fatigue going on, that they continue to improve the writing, which is the biggest thing. Is that yes, we all understand the formula, the Marvel formula as it's been called, that it's been following for quite some time, and everything else. So everything was kind of following one set pattern and one set thoughts and the way that it all played out. I just hope that it chooses or it continues to improve. I hope that they take a little bit more risks and do a lot more with a lot of the story that's going on, right? I want them to improve things. I want them to change things. I want them to be willing to take a different approach. Like what they did with Moon Knight was definitely interesting and probably one of my favorite series that's come out recently here. The fact of what they did with Werewolf by Midnight, right? That was another really good one, and that one had a very more unique horror as kind of feel to it. It's taking chance on those more risky projects and not always following the same formula that's been established. And I think right now is that they need to really be different and let a lot more writers and directors really kind of take a stab at it without following the same kind of tried and true formula that we've known for the better part of a decade. Before Infinity's the Infinity War and Endgame, that was fine. After that, we need a lot more diverse aspects. And I think that's what's going to really make or break going forward here, because I think that everyone's feeling it across not just Marvel, but I think DC in general. And I think that's why you look at series like Invincible and you look at series like The Boys, especially with their Gen V now, is that they're taking a much different approach, and it's sticking a lot because it's not following the same tried and true formula everyone knows. They're wanting to completely subvert expectations and flip what we know on their heads, and I think that's what's working for them. Honestly, we talk about the fact that the Watchmen was the first one to do that, right? They did that back in the early 2000s. The issue is that we still look at the Watchmen with wide eyes and still praise it to this day, but it did not get the attention that it deserved because of the time that it came out. Because honestly, I don't think anyone was ready for what the Watchmen was about, what it was trying to tell. Because you got to remember that Watchmen had a lot more subtleties other than just being a superhero film. It was a dark superhero film, but it also had a lot of talking about society as a whole, human nature as a whole, understanding what is really good and bad, how far we are to create an ideology for people to believe in, as well as an excuse to justify horrific means, even in the concepts of being better for everyone. You gotta look at what Osmandius did back then, like how he justified wanting to basically, wipe out millions of people, all to have the united hatred of everyone against a single entity, which later turned into the hatred against Dr. Manhattan when he left and everything else. Understanding that why Rorschach was willing to do what he did because no one else did. I was like, it showed a lot of darker tendencies. And we're seeing that in shows like The Boys, especially The Boys. I was like, The Boys absolutely shows the darker side, especially when you think that everything's gone corporate. I love what a lot of these shows are doing here. And I really hope that there's a continued change. I was like, I'm not saying, I was like, Marvel has some dark stories. Let's be 100% honest. A lot of those comics have been around for 50, 60 years. So, of course, they're going to experiment and have a lot of unique concepts and a lot of darker storylines. And I've said it before. I was like, the Back in Black storyline for Spider-Man when he gets back in the symbiote suit. And, of course, also Kraven's Last Hunt is probably some of my favorite storylines for him, which are dark as all hell, right? I want them to be willing to be a little bit more risky and take chances on storylines that are a little bit more out there and a little bit more different, right? I just want them to take a chance to break away from the tried and true formula so that way people can, one, experience a lot more of these diverse storylines. Also see more characters that they may not know, right? I was like, a lot of us hardcore comic book fans were excited when they did Moon Knight. And yeah, I know that there was some mixed feelings on the series, but overall, I like the way that they handled Moon Knight. I was like, and part of that is just because of Isaac's portrayal of Moon Knight. He did a great job of being able to play that character across so many different personalities for Moon Knight, right? I think that's what really helped to sell, is that he was able to do that. It's just like why we talk about like the Flash TV show, right? The Flash TV show, whether you like the CW Arrowverse or not, the Flash TV show did a lot of right while also doing some wrong. And yeah, I know that a lot of people really didn't like the Flash because that really treated it as like a baddie of the week kind of series, even though they had, overarching storylines for each main season. But when you look at that character, if you look at the actor who portrayed Harrison Wells, that man was talented and probably one of the shining points because he played so many different iterations and versions of that character that he had to put on so many different personalities and sold each different version, just like Isaac was able to do for Moon Knight. So the fact that with what they're doing with Echo, seeing a little bit more on that character, seeing more on this interpretation of Kingpin, because I know it's going to be massively different than what we got in Netflix. I just hope that they continue to want to push for those unique, different stories and different characters. That's the one thing that's going to save from the whole superhero fatigue, and especially the Marvel fatigue, because you think that they have a project like every 2 months right now. It's like before it was something special when it was like 2 to 3 maybe a year, or maybe even like once or twice a year, right? Now it was like 7, 8 times, whether it's a TV show or a movie. So let's just hope that they continue to improve and get better with everything over time. And I see you over there, Boogeyman. What's going on, brother? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. It's good to see everyone stopping by. And now let's see here. Going on from there, though. I was like, going on from there, I was like, there's a lot of great trailers coming out, right? I was like, besides what we got here for Echo, I know recently they had finally released the new trailer for Fallout, the TV series. And it wasn't much of a trailer as it was more of a teaser, but the fact that we finally got an official announcement on when the Fallout TV series is going to be coming is exciting news, right? Because I know a lot of people had a lot of mixed feelings when they announced a live action Fallout TV series, especially coming from Amazon. Although Amazon has done some really good stuff here. Let's be completely 100% honest that they've had some really great things that they've done themselves. So for them to actually create and are working with Bethesda to create a live action TV series in the Fallout universe is exciting to see, because I think that we're seeing a lot more risks, at least with video game universes, right? Being able to tell accurate or do well adaptations, because they're not trying to focus or reinterpret something that we already know, right? Look at a game like Elder Scrolls, right? You cannot take a story out of, or you cannot take the story of like Oblivion or Skyrim or anything like that and do a direct adaptation. It's just not going to work. However, you can take a story within that universe and adapt it into being something original, and it can work, right? That's what really should be done. Is don't tell a story that we know. I was like, or if you're gonna do, you have to be very unique with it. Look at the Castlevania anime right now with Nocturne. Nocturne has completely revamped a lot of story beats from a lot of different Castlevania games that many people do not know. But they gave us new interpretations of characters that we know, as well as they did an accurate portrayal of the characters that we do. Especially if you look at Richter, right? With the way that they showed off Richter Belmont, which is everyone's favorite Belmont boy. But the fact is that if you're looking at other stories and adaptations, don't try to do a direct adaptation, because it's going to be hard for certain things. Telling a story within that universe that makes sense within the context of that universe is the best way to do it. Exactly. Dungeons and Dragons is an accurate example, because Dungeons and Dragons is so broad that you cannot tell a story of Dungeons and Dragons. You can use the world, you can use the universe, you can use the lore, and tell an accurate story or your own wild story within that universe that makes sense within the context of that universe. If you do that, it can be enjoyable, and that's what it needs to be. I was like, it needs to be something that's enjoyable in the context of what it is, without trying to adapt exactly what has already been shown. There's times where a direct adaptation can be done well, and it can be done right. But I think when it comes to larger series, it needs to be more set within the context of that universe that makes sense to that universe. Exactly. The newest one, what's it? Honor Among Thieves or Pride? I think no. Yeah, it is Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves or something like that. As I say, y'all know what I'm talking about. The new one that just launched, like came out like last year or earlier this year. But this right here is the announcement trailer that we have here for the date of Fallout. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Honor Among Thieves. That's right. Oop. Let me turn that off here. Oh, actually, this one's okay to play because of the fact that there is nothing in it. I was like, this trailer also was just so cool with the way that they actually kept the whole aesthetic. But right there, I was like, a simple date of 4/12. I would say, I'm not going to lie, I'm excited for the fact that we're getting this next year here. So I really want to hope that Amazon had really took the time for this series to make it shine the way that it absolutely does. Because you think that Fallout, just like Elder Scrolls, has so much history, so much lore, so many unique time periods and areas that can be used. And we've seen it across the games. You have the Mojave Waste in the Arizona-Nevada area. You have the Capital Wasteland out there in Washington, D.C. You have the California Wastes all the way on the west, or on the west coast. Of course, you also know that they also have the Commonwealth all the way from Massachusetts to New York, Pennsylvania, all that area right there. And then, of course, there's other areas that we've seen. We've seen about in some of the DLC, like what happened in Alaska with Project Anchorage, right? We saw that. Like, there's so many different potential stories within the world of Fallout, especially across from where they started timeline-wise in Fallout 76 and what, like the first 100 years after the fall, or it was like, what, 20 years, 30 years, something like that, after the nukes fell, to where Fallout 4 is like several hundred years later. I was like, there's so many different areas and time periods that you can do in that world that would make sense. Hell, you could even do some stories like before the fall, right? Talk about how this alternate universe timeline went where a lot of the big changes are, because we got bits and pieces, but to see some of the actual stories and then lead into what happened surviving after the bombs fell, right? There's a lot of potential there. Yes, I believe they did do an actual teaser reel for it showing it off, but I know that was different from the actual trailer when they announced it over a year ago, when they announced that they were working on it. So there's a lot to be excited for when it comes to that series here for a lot of the fans and stuff like that. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited for it because of the fact that Amazon has been taking on a lot more risky projects, and it's been paying off for them. A lot of their shows have been doing really well, especially a lot of their live action series. I mean, you want to talk about risky, look at the success of The Boys alone. I'll say that is probably one of the most out there graphic novels, comics, whatever you want to be, to do a portrayal, and look at how much of a phenomenon the boys have become. I was like, so much so that they got a spin-off with a lot more of their side characters that were not talked about with Gen V. And then you saw that they also did that they're doing Invincible. I was like, yeah, that's an animated series, but the fact is that Invincible is still an out there, very mature style show. So the fact is that there's a lot that can be done right if it's done right. And I think that Fallout has that capability with the right attention to detail and the right team behind it. And I think that's the biggest thing is I'm hoping that Netflix or that Amazon Prime really takes their time with this, that they really made sure that they had the right thing. Which, to be fair, if Bethesda's the ones who signed off on the project, I'm pretty sure that the people who are writing and directing know what they're doing, because I'll say this: Bethesda's a little bit more protective of their IPs and not so gung ho about everything like a lot of other studios are. I'll say right now the only one who's definitely gung ho about things is Konami and Capcom, because they be working with Netflix on all over the place. So you know what, the fact that Bethesda and Amazon is doing this, I got. I'm not gonna say my expectations are high, but I think that they're relatively up there. That I'm hoping for something good. I'm gonna put it out there like that. Is that I have some relatively good expectations for what to expect from these guys on what's to come, because that is gonna be the big one, right? So we'll kind of see how that all plays out here, and let's just hope for the best. Now, spinning off from there, I don't know about you guys, but speaking on Netflix, Netflix has a lot going on right now, especially when it comes to their way that they are absolutely changing the world when it comes to anime. I was like, they have so many projects out right now and so many adaptations. It's kind of insane. From original projects to copyrighted IPs that they're working on collaboration with, as well as a lot of their 3D animation series. I was like, they brought back Sonic Boom, or Sonic Prime actually, with their season 2. And Sonic Prime is actually a really good show, and I watched that with my nephew, right? I was like, my little nephew, I was like, he loves to watch Sonic. Me and him hang out all the time, and I let him play all the Sonic games, and we do stuff like that together. He loves that show. And of course, we can't talk about Netflix without praising Castlevania, because Castlevania, the anime, has absolutely flipped over what a good adaptation of a video game, especially as an anime, can be, because of how goddamn good it was, right? I think it's hard to deny anyone out there who cannot say that Castlevania is not a good series and a good show, because of the fact that, one, the animation is so top tier and so well done that they had to literally break down the entire process on how they created those 3D looking effects on the fights, and it is crisp. But I think probably one that had everyone excited when they announced it earlier this year was the fact that they were doing an anime adaptation, or really a re-adaptation of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I think a lot of people have a love for the live action film. No matter how you feel about it, it's a cult classic. It's enjoyable. It is great for what it was at the time, and probably one of the first, like, quote unquote video game graphic novel adaptations at the time, because it tried to mix all of that together, and it did it in a very enjoyable way. But when they announced the fact that they were doing an anime adaptation to actually go and tell the whole story of all the graphic novels, which wasn't finished by the way at the time that the movie came out, and that they're going to expand a lot more and be able to go into it more, having the original cast from the movie voicing all the characters, and having Edgar Wright, the original director and writer, and Brian Lee O'Malley as producer come back for this had me excited. And the fact that they already announced that Anna Monoguchi, who did the soundtrack for the game and as well as I think the original film, are doing the music for the anime, makes sense. And they just released the intro for the show. And honestly, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off has me excited when it comes out later this month. And the opening credits actually is one of those things of just like, yo, I'm actually going to sit down and watch these credits every time, because, a lot of us nowadays are just like, skip, skip, skip. I saw it once. I don't need to see it again. I'm just like, nah, man, this one actually is very enjoyable with its aesthetic. I can't speak apparently. Its aesthetic, its presentation, its color, and of course with the music that plays in the background. It's just so good all the way around. So let me go ahead and pull that up here for you guys. I was like, also, I hope y'all like the way that I have this all presented to be able to just pull up the trailers for y'all. Can't do that unless I turn it down. Unless I turn it down. Like, there's just so much about this that has me excited, from the fact that all the characters are like actual accurate portrayals of their character designs in the graphic novel is what's absolutely great. I was like, just, it has me so excited for what's going to come from this, because the fact that I remember reading Scott Pilgrim versus the World when I was in school. Okay, that's how long ago this was. Is I was reading the novel as it was coming out while I was still in school. God, that was like 15 plus years ago. I was like, so I believe that the movie came out, I think I was a sophomore in high school. I think I was still in high school when the movie came out. And I think that I was like going into either my junior or my senior year when they finally released the sixth novel, or volume 6 of the graphic novel, while I was still in school. And it has me excited from just the sheer presentation of this intro alone. And just seeing this lets me know that the series, or that the actual show itself is going to be great when it comes out. And it's coming out, as you can see right there, November 17th. I'm excited for when this finally premieres. I'm not going to lie, because of the fact that I've always said how much of a big Scott Pilgrim fan I am, that I actually went out and bought when they announced it, the whole soundtrack on vinyl, as well as the live action rendition of one of the songs that Brie Larson did, which I thought was great in the movie. I bought that vinyl set, and I had the movie. I bought the game twice, digitally. I think that they have a physical version, which I need to find. I had the old DVD when it was first released, and I think I need to get the special edition Steelbook 4K Blu-ray that they have out for it. I'm a fan, right? It's hard to deny how much of a fan of Scott Pilgrim I am. So with them just showing off this alone, and just how exciting that this intro was with just its whole art and everything else, has me looking really forward to what they do with the actual show. And like all the teasers that they've been putting out for months for this show has me excited. And if it's bad, I'm gonna honestly cry, because of this is one of those ones where I'm just like, I have such high expectations that if it doesn't meet those, I will actually be legitimately sad. Because you don't realize I've been waiting for years for them to do another interpretation. I believe it was Limited Run who did it. I think it was for PS4 and what, Nintendo Switch, I think it was. I'd have to look back into that. Obviously, it was like they only do with Limited Run, they only do it for certain periods of time, unless they are like, hey, we have extra stock and we're doing a special sale, come get it. But yeah, like I said, I know that there was a physical that was done, and I'm sad that I missed out on that because, like I said, I love Scott Pilgrim. I was like, the movie was so cool for its time. I was like, and I remember the original deleted scenes and how they're like, oh yeah, this was the other ending that we had, and there was this one here, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Uh, but there was some things in there that I'm just like, man, they really missed out on a chance to do some really interesting things. Like I said, especially when it came to the girls. The girls had a lot of story in there. It wasn't just all. I mean, yes, it was primarily about Scott and Ramona, but there was a lot of stuff that happened with like Kim and Knives that added to a lot of their story, um, and also gave a lot more depth into to Scott's character. Yeah, I know in the movie they portrayed him as the nerdy, awkward hero that we all want to love as a loser, and he is a loser. But if you read the graphic novel, Scott's also kind of a dick and a little bit of a piece of shit. He's like the piece of shit you want to root for, but it's just like, come on, man, you be doing some dick stuff and not even realizing you're doing some dick stuff. That's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of asshole that Scott is, and I really hope that they get that just right, because the fact that that's what kind of gave Scott a lot more depth as a character, not just kind of like a trope, right? So I'm really excited for what they do with this, and I hope that they really do it right. And the fact that they're just bringing back everyone, and I mean everyone for it, gives me good hopes that it's going to be done well. So I'm excited for it, and that intro was phenomenal. So we'll see what happens. Now, going from there, what I have here for you that I'm absolutely excited for is, y'all know I'm the anime king for a reason, right? I was like, that's what I do. But I don't think y'all understand that right now, anime is in a very unique spot because of the fact that not only is it just Japanese animation that have been taken off, but there's also been adaptations of stories from non-mangas. And that means anything that's not from Japan. We've seen a lot more manhwas, which is Chinese animes or comics. And then, of course, right now, because of like the rise of webtoons over the past decade, and especially over the last 5 years, that manhwas have become absolutely popular and staples nowadays. It's not just mangas that everyone talks about. It's also about manhwas. And those are specifically Korean comics. And probably the biggest one out there, besides Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, is Solo Leveling. Solo Leveling is such an icon amongst manhwa fans that it was only a matter of time when it got its anime adaptation. And when they announced that last year, and earlier this year just released the trailer for the anime adaptation that's going to be coming, it looks absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot wait because that one is probably the best damn manhwa that's out there consistently with its art, its presentation, and its fight sequences. And you think that the thing that makes manhwa so unique is that they are built for specifically mobile reading intentions. So that means that they're all vertical, non-stop scripts put together compared to where mangas are actual books and pages that you read from right to left, and they're in panels, right? So for manhwas to be able to do long form single image strips and be able to tell badass stories and some seriously well created and artistically done fight sequences in these vertical strips is amazing. Anything that some of these things are very small teams of like 4 or 5 people that will, like, you have the writer, you have the creator, you have an art, you have one artist who does all the designs, and then you have someone who does all the inking. So for them to be able to do that consistently and as long as they do, because the fact that you're not talking about like mangas that do it like maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month. No, these are released weekly. And some of them are long as shit. And for them to keep that consistent work is amazing. So to actually see this on the silver screen, right? To see it on become an actual full adaptation is going to be exciting. And they just released the news about the opening theme song. And I know some of y'all don't care about music, right? I say, but when an anime has a badass opening theme song or even a very good ending theme song, it goes without a doubt that it becomes memorable, because we could talk about the 17 different openings for like Naruto, right? All the way from Naruto to Shippuden. I was like, you're gonna be able to mention a specific song and people are gonna be like, oh, I remember that story arc, oh, I remember that era, and be able to talk about it. Just like with Bleach, just like with One Piece, when you have a good theme song, it sticks to people and it makes them immediately think of the series. And this one is absolutely exciting because it takes one of the newest, most popular Korean pop groups, which is Tomorrow Together, or TXT, Tomorrow X Together, however you want to talk about it, and Sawano Hiroyuki, say, creating the opening theme, literally called Level, which is probably the most on the nose like naming that could have used, but it sounds dope as hell and has me excited for what's gonna be coming with it. So I'm gonna see if I can't play this here for you guys, so that way y'all could see why I am so excited for what's gonna be coming with this opening theme. I had to turn that down for y'all a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this theme has me excited for everything that's coming. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff coming up out of the way here, and especially with this one for Solo Leveling, which probably has to be one of the biggest anticipated anime projects out there right now, is going to be big. I would say, because I think everyone's been waiting to see the Grinning God, as it's known, on the big screen here, and it just looks so well done. So I hope y'all are excited for this as not. And if you don't know about it, I was like, one, go to Tappy Tunes right now, download it, start reading Solo Leveling. You will not be disappointed in spending your time to go and see that here. I was like, it's absolutely one of the best things to do here, as well as they are going to be doing special screening events this year in Tokyo, Seoul, and LA. In December, they'll be showing the first 2 episodes of the series. So if you're in those cities, if you're in Tokyo, if you're in Seoul, or if you're in LA, go and check it out. I was like, because one, I'm jealous as fuck, and I would kill to go see that. But make sure you go and check it out. And note that it will be premiering in the winter season, starting in January of next year. So for those who are excited for that series, make sure you go and check it out when it drops with the rest of the winter season come January, December time. So all I know is my hype levels are like through the roof for this one, because of the fact that I know the quality of it. And right now the animation and the studio behind it is looking absolutely phenomenal. So I cannot wait. This is one of those ones that you have to have high expectations, because the manhwa itself, the source material, already has very high expectations because of what it continues to set as a precedent. And I won't let anyone say otherwise about it. I was like, my expectations are through the roof on this one. So we'll kind of see how it all plays out. Oh man, I don't know about y'all, but I can't wait. And speaking of anime, and speaking of mangas and stuff like that, they actually just released the first image here. They actually just released the first images of the new anime poster for the upcoming series for Kaiju number 8. And for those who don't know about Kaiju number 8, Kaiju number 8 is probably one of the coolest stories out right now. I was like, besides obviously Solo Leveling, there's a lot of great stories out. I'm not gonna even lie about that. There's a lot of great series just like popping off right now here. But if you are like me, who grew up in the old school days of like the Super Sentai between Power Rangers or Ultraman or Kamen Rider, anything like that, and you love kaiju fights, especially if you grew up with Godzilla, Kaiju number 8 is literally all about kaiju fighting action, and it's gonna be absolutely phenomenal with its story here. And the fact that we're finally getting that series as an anime adaptation is going to be so dope because of the fact that I believe it's in it's in Shueisha's Jump Plus app that you can actually read it here. And it's probably one of the other biggest anime adaptation like announcements coming out for next year. I don't know if they have a date for it just yet or when it's going to be coming out here. Okay, yeah. So they announced that it's going to be in the spring season. So that series will be debuting roughly around March to April time because that's usually when the spring season kind of kicks off right before the summer season. But yeah, Kaiju number 8 is definitely one that looks phenomenal here. If I can find this here. I would show the image here, but I can't find it right now. Anyways, all I know is that having seen that poster has me excited for what is coming up, right? There's so many more stories that are coming out, and I'm glad to see that that anime itself within the past 2 years, ever since everything got pushed back, delayed due back during the lockdown back in 2020, and even a lot of projects got pushed out of 2021. Coming in 2022 and even 2023, so many more projects started hitting full steam from stuff that was previously going to be worked on to stuff that was just basically like, hey, let's just put this out there. And we're seeing a lot of those projects coming out of fruition within the past year. From this year alone to what's coming out next year, we're seeing a lot of bigger name adaptations from series that have really shown off and become really popular in the last 2 years. And it's exciting because of the fact that there's a lot more diverse mangas and manhwas and a lot of adaptations that are coming that are telling stories that are breaking away from the normal tropes. You look at a series like Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man is probably one of the biggest ones out there that has absolutely broken a lot of the traditional shonen tropes with a main character like Denji, and the fact that it's one of the, as everyone's calling it, the dark shonens, right? Because of the fact that it is absolutely full on brutality at its highest. It is also the most childish, and that part of that is just because of the creator, right? His childish humor and just like the garbage mentality of things, just like obsessed with boobs. The way that you can get a main character excited over the thought of boobs is great to think about. But you look at Chainsaw Man, and then you look at a series like Jujutsu Kaisen, right? Jujutsu Kaisen has also become like a worldwide phenomenon, and that's another shonen that's absolutely broken away from the standard tropes here. You look at a lot of the traditional shonen style series. You look at shows like Bleach, One Piece, Naruto, Dragon Ball, obviously being up there. Even modern day ones like My Hero. They follow a certain level of where they'll put the stakes and when they'll do quote unquote losses, right? You know, the death of characters. These other series, they're just like, nah, fuck all that. Just to be a little bit wild. They don't care. They're gonna go all the way with it and not hold back. And that's what I think is doing a lot of these series so much more, because of the fact that they're breaking a lot of the normal expectations. And when you're looking at the rise of like all these manhwas that are coming out too, I think that's what makes them so much more anticipated, because of the fact that they break a lot of the traditional stereotypes that we know. Even if you look at like the success of a series like Overlord being an isekai, right? You have a massively dark, evil protagonist that you can't help but love with Ainz. You look at Shield Hero, a character who was absolutely wronged in the very beginning, and his hatred towards everyone, and basically why he's bit of a dick is understandable. And when you see his growth over the series and why he's like, yeah, he's still seen as, oh, you're just being evil, but he's really not. He's doing everything for a purpose and why people stand by him. And he becomes the voice of reason over everyone else's sheer stupidity. Makes it enjoyable because of the fact that yes, it's the tragic hero, but it's also understandable on why it's the tragic hero storyline. But it also changes a lot of the expectations that you would expect out of that hero because he doesn't do anything out of the goodness of his heart to make everyone love him again. No, he's going to do everything that he needs to be done his way because he knows what it takes. And I think that's what makes Shield Hero so enjoyable, right? A lot of those series that really changed the expectations, and when you look at the popularity of certain series in these webtoons, they do that. You have characters like Doksha Kim from Omniscient Readers. You have the main character from Solo Leveling. You have other series that are out there that are really popular. You have probably one that I really enjoy a lot is Plus 99 Reinforced Wooden Stick. That name is absolutely absurd, and it is. But when you see the main character too, he's an asshole. But you kind of understand why he's a bit of an asshole. But at the same time, it's like one side of him that is, and then when you see the other side, you're like, oh, he's not so bad. But then when he goes off, it's just like, you are one sadistic mother sucker. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it can be attributed to the growth of streaming services. I think that a lot of the fact that we're seeing more diverse content because of the growth of streaming services and the support and the fact that they're able to take on those more risky projects. I agree. I think that's definitely one of the more unique aspects of what the modern era has created for a lot of these. And I think that's where, especially with anime as an industry as a whole runs and as a big part of the Japanese economy. And I think that's why it's such a very protected industry out there. And you're seeing a lot of stuff coming from them over the years, right? And that's why it all comes down to what they feel and why a lot more changes and what adaptations are done has grown so much over time. And I think that especially in anime, there's a lot more push for taking on different projects. And I'm glad for it. I really cannot be excited more than what's coming. And I'm really looking forward to it here. With when you look at a lot of the series or a lot of these services too, they're working in ways to really change it. You talk about Netflix, you talk about Prime here are definitely more open than you have the series. You have a service like Crunchyroll, which is probably like the de facto anime streaming service, right? They're the ones who have all the biggest publishing rights and streaming rights and licenses for a lot of the big stuff that comes from Japan, for good and bad. And I speak on that quite often on why it's good and bad. But it is what it is, right? I was like, it's one of those things here that a lot of those have really started to see the success, and that's why I think that they're putting more money into that. We've seen, especially with Netflix alone, being willing to take more risks on anime projects. You think that they had a few here and there a decade ago. Then probably like 5 years ago, they got a lot more streaming rights to older animes that were lost licenses to other services that may no longer be around, that weren't being put on others and weren't going to be renewed. And that brought in a lot of attention. Then they tried to do a few original projects for animes that blew up. And now they are absolutely putting millions and millions, I think even billions of dollars into this to fund more projects for both original animes, which we've actually seen a lot more original anime coming from them that have absolutely been cool. You know, probably one of the ones that I found that was very interesting to me that a lot of people talked about in my circles that told me to check it out was Scissor 7. Scissor 7 was actually a really cool anime project that I didn't know about that was all original, and I loved it. You know, that is one I definitely recommend. So the fact that they're doing that here, And one that they just released literally yesterday, for those who want to go check it out, is that called Blue Eye Samurai. It's about a half Japanese, half Englishman samurai who who's on this. It's like a tale of revenge of a half, of a mixed breed. I hate saying it like that, of a mixed blood, right? And it's very interesting because of one, it absolutely full on R rated, right? Doesn't hold back. Think of like what they did with Afro Samurai back in the day with uh with Samuel L. Jackson, and how he told his story was R rated all the way, balls off the wall, no hold back, fuck you, fuck this, fuck that, cut everyone down. I was like, Blue Eye Samurai has that same appeal. I was like, and the fact that they're doing more R rated stuff, and you look at the fact that they're the place now for Baki, I was like, which is great. You have a series like King and Ashura, which is phenomenal. Like they're doing more projects that are out there, and I think that a lot of these successes, especially for a lot of these successful stories that are coming out, is because of streaming services allowing it to reach more audiences, honestly. And I think that's what makes it so enticing and exciting, especially when you have such great series out there in many different mediums now. Like I said, it's not all about manga. I was about to say, webtoons alone as a service has helped to bring out the Korean webcomics to a whole new light. I was like, and it's not just webtoons. Webtoons is probably the biggest ones, but then you also have like Tappy Tunes and you have Tapas. A lot of those those streaming sites really done a lot for bringing out more unique manhwas and a lot more Korean stories to really entice a lot of people. I was like, I can tell you that I have so many of those on my phone here. I was like, because I'm reading like 27, 28 of those or more because of the fact that they're all really well done. And that's still on top of keeping up with my usual mangas that I have to do. I was like, but the thing about manga updates is that some of them are once a month to once every 2 weeks. There's a few that are weekly, but they're very short chapters. And a lot of what's done in these web comics and these webtoons and stuff like that is that they're very long and they're done weekly, and it's amazing. Some of them are obviously put out a lot at a time, so that way they kind of have a buffer. But the fact is that there needs to be more shakeup with these, and I'm excited to see that we're seeing a lot more experimental adaptations of a lot of different mediums. Tubi's been great for you for having the 80s tunes and sitcoms you grew up with. I've heard that about Tubi. I was like, also I've heard the disrespect of Tubi for their original films, which are like, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But moving on, going from there, there's one thing here that I think that we all want to know, and that's the spoiler cast here on the thoughts of the Five Nights at Freddy's film. And let me tell you this, all the hate coming from critics, completely unwarranted. The fact that some of them were going out as far as a way giving this film a 3 or a 2 or a 4, no, it is not that bad. If you want that bad, go watch any of the Paranormal Activity films after the first one. That's bad. Is it a great film? No, it's not. I'm going to be 100% honest. It is not a great film, but it is a good film, and it's an enjoyable film. And the thing is that this was a film that was made out of a passion project for this franchise. This is made for those who know of Five Nights at Freddy's or who are really big fans of Five Nights at Freddy's. And the other aspect of it that people need to understand is that this is not a direct telling of the games. This is not Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, or 3 from the games. This is based on a lot of the stories around that whole franchise because it pulled in concepts from everywhere. It pulled in from the games, pulled in from the books, pulled in from the comics. All right? Realistically, from what has been broken down, from what I understand, and what a lot of diehard lore fanatics in the Five Nights at Freddy's community, or FNAF, um, is that this takes more on an interpretation and a change up on the story of the original three novels, which I believe is the Silver Eyes, the Fourth Closet, and I can't remember the third one. But it's more of an interpretation of those three films using a lot of the concepts from the games and well as the comics. Because Mike Schmidt in this universe and in the world of the film takes place as the stand-in for Charlie, who's the main character within those novels. So understanding that fact is that it really does a lot within its time span of almost an hour and a half, 2 hours, so something around there, right? It took a lot of adaptations from really filling in a lot of the lore of the world and kind of confirming a lot for the diehard fans, while also still being reference and Easter egg leftovers for those who want to look for secrets. But at the same time, it was still an enjoyable film, yeah. But it was, I will agree, it was a bit all over the place. But there's nothing wrong with that, and the fact that they're trying to take a lot of different aspects and concepts and put them together in a story that did connect. The story did connect. It was just a little bit all over the place. Yes, I will not deny that there were some plot holes that were left out there in one particular scene. Mike Schmidt's aunt is there watching his little sister, only to be attacked by, as everyone knows him as, Golden Freddy, right? And when they find him, it's just like, hey, what happened to my aunt? And it's like, oh, she's sleeping. And then after that, no one ever referenced her again after she was either really knocked out or she was dead. Everyone just forgot about the aunt. But to be fair, the aunt kind of deserved it, but that she was a bitch. And so you can just go with the belief that she's dead and be, you know what, just forget about it. Don't worry about it. But like I said, there's definitely some out there plot holes that were left, and they even confirmed that there were quite a few scenes that were cut that probably added in some more context for certain characters. But overall, critics are going to look at this film in a different light than what you or I would look at it, right? As fans of the series, we're going to look at it in the concept of how much does it take from what we know? How much is it taken from the games? How much is it taken from the books? How much is it taken from the comics? What are they confirming? What are they not referencing? What are they not talking about? And how much does it make sense within the universe and context of the world that it's trying to tell a story in? Because I think people fail to understand is that Five Nights at Freddy's is not the same as a story as now as it was when the first game launched way back in the early 2010s, right? In the early teens, right? When you look at it back then, you were looking at the fact that haunted animatronics because dead kids stuffed inside. If you look at the story now, it has gone so far off the rails and yet still references all that. But you're talking about energy from you're talking about energy that's left over that's used to instill the anger, hatred, and sadness of dead people, not even just children, but tends to be a lot of children, and infuse that into animatronics. You have melted metal that is infused with said energy that is now living metal that is filled with hatred and anger and energy, to liquid goo that is filled with anger, hatred, and all that, to also being able to digitally upload your consciousness into a computer program to be able to make a virtual virus of your consciousness that can then infect and brainwash other people to basically worship you, and also being able to clone children, there's cloning, and also being able to create animatronics that are able to steal your body and completely clone themselves to look like you. Even though they're not really human, they can look human. Also, you have the concept of the fact that is like hypnotizing voice boxes that can create illusions and shit. Five Nights at Freddy's is complicated, all right? It's ridiculous. So I think that's what people fail to understand, is that there's so much in this universe, lore-wise and story-wise, that makes no sense. Or it goes so far off the walls, it's just like, what the hell were they thinking when they came up with this? And honestly, who knows? But you know what? That's what makes it all entertaining, because they come up with some of the most obscure, wild, and random stories. But it somehow is entertaining still, because that's what it is. It's entertainment. And it's so ridiculous and so obscure that you can't help but enjoy it, because of the fact that it's so different. The fact that it's so out there. The fact that it's sheer insanity. So for those who understand that concept, when you're looking at Five Nights at Freddy's, are going to look at it in a different light than someone who's just going to be like, what is Act 1, 2, and 3? What's going on here? I don't get it. Does it all tie together? No, it makes no sense. It's dumb. It's weird. And they're just using a name. Critics watch tons of movies all the time. And they're going to look at it based on a checklist of, does it do this, or this? Was it enjoyable? No. All right. I'm going to put it big fat F. That's the way that movie critics look at things. That's where some reviewers and critics in general look at things. They follow a checklist. They don't always follow and look into what the subtleties and the deep concepts are, or have their own personal understanding for it, right? One, and I mentioned this here, is that y'all know that I do a lot with the team over at LV1 Gaming. I was like, that's my family, that's my team. Most recently, my partner, the love of my life, Akumu Matata, y'all may know her over on the Dragon's Den, she did the review for World of Horror, a old retro based, 1-bit, 2-bit style horror game coming from the team over at Eastbridge Games. And she gave that game almost a near perfect score because of the fact that she had a love of what the game was about. She lived in Japan. She has a deep love for Japan. She knows the history and folklore of a lot of stories out in Japan. She has a lot of stuff out there for a lot of Asian countries in general, but specifically looking at Japan. So she understood a lot of what was being presented in there, but she also has an appreciation for the Cthulhu mythos and a lot of Lovecraftian horror. So for her, she was excited, even though the story was kind of pieced out, being able to take a lot of those concepts and how it mixed both of those together. She enjoyed the visuals, all that kind of stuff, and she loved it so much. But you look at other reviewers, some of them may not have had that same connection because they don't have that kind of understanding. So some of them may have rated it differently. And I think that's the same way with this film. And again, I'm not saying it's a perfect or an amazing, mind-blowing film. No, it is not. There's a lot that was out there with it. But the actors that were in it, the story that was told, and what was confirmed was definitely enjoyable. And I'll say this, the fact that they were able to do this on a budget of $20 million, right? And I don't care what you say. I don't care what any critic says. The fact that this movie is making over $300 million in opening weekend out in the theaters, not counting whatever money's being made from streaming services, let that show you. Critics don't mean shit nowadays. Let's be 100% honest. And I review games. I review stuff. I was like, my opinion don't mean shit. I'm going to be 100% honest. Critics don't mean shit nowadays. That's just full stop the truth. It's about finding a reviewer who has enough realism or enough understanding as well as a shared passion that you can trust. Who's honest about their thoughts and not trying to just follow a checklist. That's where it is. Is that my opinions and my thoughts may not be the same as some of y'all's, but y'all may trust me because y'all know how authentic I am, that you can take my opinion, which a review is just an opinion, and be like, okay, I can see where he's coming from. I may rate it lower than say what you would give it for. Like, I can give a movie a 6 because I liked it at certain points and not. And you're like, okay, I can kind of see where he's coming from. I'm going to watch it myself, which you should always do. Watch a movie for yourself, play a game for yourself, do anything for yourself, and then make your own opinion and see if the person who you trust, whose opinion that you would believe in, is comparable to yours, or if there's differences. But you should never take one other person's voice as a fact. And I think that's what this film is proving. Because, again, it's making money for diehard fans who are enjoying it. And that's what this film was for. This was for introducing the world to people who may not know it, but it was really a film that was made for those who do know this series, who do know this game, who are absolutely diehards of it. And I think that's what's doing great, because of the fact that it's proving that you don't need the critics' opinions to have an enjoyable film and to be a successful film. That's the biggest thing, is successful. So the fact that Blumhouse came in to really help get this project going off the ground after many setbacks, to get it, pay for it, to really get it moving the way that they did, was phenomenal. The movie basically follows the story of what we know here within the first game at the first Pizzaplex. We see the main animatronics that we all know, which is Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, Foxy. We also see the earliest aspects of the fact that we know that Matthew Illard is William Afton. And in the movie, we see him in the Golden Bunny suit becoming Springtrap, because that's what it does, right? We all know that he gets killed because the spring locks in that suit set off, kill him, and basically get him stuck, right? And he fuses with that suit and becomes a living corpse that haunts that animatronic because he's a part of that suit. That doesn't get shown until, I think, game 3, right? We only see the main 4, which was in game 1. And then we also get a lot of other references to stuff like the fact that the police officer, Vanessa, is a reference to the character Vanessa, or Vanny, in the most recent game, which was Security Breach. And the fact is that in the movie, they call Vanny, or Vanessa calls William Afton her father. That's her dad. Well, for those who know the game, she's not related to Afton whatsoever. She was just a data analyst who was told to take the old electronics out of the animatronics, scan them to put them in a game. And the thing is that William Afton's consciousness was in some of those hard drives that got scanned and created a digital consciousness that became a virus that she ended up interacting with while she was testing this VR game. And she basically got brainwashed because of this animated virus. And in Security Breach, because of the fact that she also ends up kind of picking up attributes and personality traits of his daughter, who's dead and also an animatronic, known as Baby, she becomes kind of like a surrogate daughter because of the fact of her relationship to him being, one, brainwashed, but also because of the fact that she picks up certain traits from his long dead daughter. So in a sense, she is his daughter, but she's also not. Like I said, the story is complex and convoluted as all hell. Like, it's ridiculous. And so it's because of that you wouldn't know that context if you don't know the games. You wouldn't have that understanding if you weren't some sort of fan of the series. And that's what I'm saying, is that Abby is not a character that we know. We know Mike because that's the main character from the original. Before everything happens, right? Before he got fired and stuff like that. And I believe that Mike was also said to be the son of William Afton, is that he was Michael Afton and stuff like that. And then that was like discovered like 5 games later anyways. Like I said, there's a lot of changes. And critics wouldn't understand that because they're just going to look at it on the context of what it is. They're just going to look at the movie in the scope of, in the span of the movie. And again, the film, even in that scope, right? Even if you're looking at the film as a film, it's enjoyable. It's still a fun film. I was like, especially with the fact that you'll recognize a lot of cameos whether you're on YouTube or not. You'll recognize a lot of Easter eggs whether you're ingrained or not. The film had a lot in it, right? They had some new characters. They had some unique kills and stuff like that I saw. Shit. I mean, everyone talks about Chica's cupcake. I was like, yo, that cupcake as an animatronic does not really get any sort of like attention in the games. And in this movie, they let the cupcake do its own thing. And I tell you what, that cupcake, from what I remember and what Akuma showed me on a lot of TikTok, that thing wanted all the smoke. That cupcake attacked everyone and didn't give a It did not hold back. It didn't care. It did not care. It literally attacked everyone. I'm talking like this tiny ass little robot cupcake was willing to just attack everyone. It was, if it had hands, it'd be throwing them nonstop. And that's what made it enjoyable, is because of the fact that it was ridiculous in what it does. Yes, there could have been more involvement of the animatronics, and it focused a lot on the story of Mike, but so did the books. It focused on the story of Charlie, because of the fact that there's more at play going on than just what's in the pizzeria, right? And the animatronics. There's a lot of other stuff that's happening, and that's what it's telling right there. And I think that they already stated they want to do a sequel. Apparently, Matthew Illard signed on for a 3-movie deal as William Afton, and apparently the director said that they would like to adapt the second game for the sequel here. So that'd be interesting, because that would be a whole prequel sequel and stuff like that. But at the same time, is wondering how they're going to adapt that, and then also still tell the story of the other books in the trilogy, if that's the story that they're going with. Like I said, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to enjoy. And I think at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? There's so much in there. Like, I could sit here for 3 hours talking about that film piece by piece, and I still wouldn't be able to explain it all. And trust me, I don't think I have the brain power to be able to do that. I don't got a lot of brain power as it is. But I definitely don't have the brain power to break that down for 3-4 hours in depth like some people are. I was like, there's some people who are more talented and ingrained in that community than I am that can do that. I may be able to talk nonstop without breathing, but even I have my limits. All I'm going to say is, at the end of the day, that if you have Peacock, whether you have it through your provider, you got it cheap for whatever, it's worth a watch, right? If you can go see it at the movie theaters on a matinee for like $4, it's worth a $4 watch. I'm gonna say that, right? Go and watch it as a film for stupid enjoyment. I was gonna say, if you're a fan of the franchise, it's well worth your time. I was like, there's a lot in there that you'll be able to pick up on and have fun with. Overall, the film is nowhere near what a lot of people and a lot of critics were trying to say that it was. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that don't listen to just anyone. I was like, because critics don't mean shit. My opinion don't mean shit. Form your own. If you trust me and you like my thoughts and feelings on a lot of stuff, and you're like, I could believe him, and okay, cool, I appreciate that. Let me just give you an idea on what I know, and go watch it for yourself, or go play something for yourself and form your own, and see if you agree with what I say, or you had differences. And if you don't agree with me, that's cool. My taste and stuff is very good, is going to be different than a lot of people's taste. My taste may be different from yours, and that's fine. Everyone has different interests. But don't take a lot of these bigger sites and review places as gospel, because as I stated, some of them have to review so many films, games, movies, books, whatever, all the time, and they just follow a checklist. That's not authentic. That's just going based on a formula. But that's just me, guys. That's just my thoughts. As I say, I will go more into depth about the film, but it's already getting later here, and that's a lot to talk about by myself. But hopefully the crew's technical issues will get fixed next week, and we'll go from there. But with that being said, I appreciate you all so much for stopping by, hanging out with me. I hope you all enjoyed. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us here at the Smash Podcast, and I got a lot more stuff coming up here for the channel. So if you want to see all the stupid things that I got planned, make sure you check it out. And you can find my links to all my socials down below, as well as the rest of the crews. They can't do their sign-outs here because they're all a bunch of punks who had to have bad internet today, except for Soul, who's currently out of the country, so he gets pass. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate you all so much. And remember, always tune in here Saturday. If you miss the days of Saturday morning cartoons, well, we got you here with your Saturday morning anime super hour. We talk all things comics, movies, TV shows, and manga, comic books, anime, all that good stuff here. So that way you can always get your nerdy goodness every Saturday morning. Until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful one, and we'll see you next week in the United States of Smash. Till then, later, everybody.